So, Charles Leclerc admitted that using the hard tyre in the Hungarian Grand Prix was a turning point in the race, and that he doesn't understand why Ferrari put him on it. After only 17 laps on his medium compound, the Monegasque pitted from the lead at the end of lap 39, with Ferrari hoping to get him to the end of lap 70 on Pirelli's hardest tyre. Despite seeing how the Alpine duo of Esteban Ocon and Fernando Alonso were struggling on that compound. The decision went against Leclerc's wishes, as he wanted to extend his middle stint on mediums before switching to softs for the final stint. Instead, Leclerc struggled on the hards to the point where he had to come in for softs again, dropping the Monegasque driver to 6th at the finish. Now, Leclerc was perplexed as to why Ferrari decided to bring him in early for hards despite advising his crew against it. I think the second stint should have been longer. The first stint was the right moment to stop, and we did the right choice there. But on the second stint, I don't know exactly why we did it shorter. I made it clear that the medium I wanted to keep it as long as possible, but we pitted very early for the hard, which we need to understand why. We had to pit again quite early because the hard was just incredibly difficult. Leclerc believes Ferrari reacted to Max Verstappen's second pit stop by bringing him in early, but he believes the Scuderia should not have done so and should have simply followed its optimal strategy. I'm pretty sure that this was his call to put us under the pressure, but I don't think we should have maybe reacted to that, because then it was a snowball effect to us and we lost much more than what we should do. Now, with this latest setback, Leclerc's lead over Hungary winner and championship leader Verstappen has grown to 80 points heading into the summer break, making the Dutchman the overwhelming favourite to win the driver's title. When asked what Ferrari's latest blunder means for his title chances, Leclerc said the team can't even think about the championship until it fixes its mistakes. Before thinking about the championship, to be honest, as a team we need to understand what we need to do to get better, because otherwise it's going to be really difficult. Obviously, a race like this is frustrating and we need to get better as a whole. It always feels like there's always something going on, whatever it is, reliability, mistakes, whatever. But we need to be better putting a weekend together, and yeah, we'll try and use the few days that we have to reset, but obviously also to analyse and to understand what we can do to get better, because this is extremely important. Ferrari, on the other hand, had a different viewpoint. Despite admitting that the team did not get Leclerc's strategy right and shouldn't have used the hard, team boss Matteo Binotto doubted Ferrari could have beaten Max Verstappen and Red Bull to victory. "I don't think so," replied Binotto when asked if it was possible for Ferrari to win in Hungary. "What we were lacking today was really speed and pace. I don't think we could have won today, and for the reason for that, I don't know. Because it's the first time in the first 13 races that we didn't have the speed to be there for the victory. We need to look at first into that performance-wise to understand. I'm pretty sure we'll then understand that, and we'll understand as well why the tyres were not working properly." Now, Ferrari's pace in Friday practice indicated that it was the team to beat, so the lack of performance in the race came as a surprise. And Spaniard Carlos Sainz agreed with Binotto that the car simply didn't have the pace on Sunday. "If I guide myself by the pace of Friday, it should have been an easy 1-2. Sunday it was a fight every lap, there was no balance in the car. I couldn't push because I opened the front tyre, I was just struggling quite a lot with the car, and I'm not surprised that I finished P4 because the feeling in the car was quite poor." Sainz attributed Ferrari's struggles in Hungary to performance rather than strategy, comparing his race to that of Mercedes' Lewis Hamilton, who started 7th and finished 2nd. "You compare my pace on softs with Lewis. It's clear that we went from being much quicker on Friday to slower today. In the end, we were stopping early because we were running out of fronts, and in the end, yes, maybe the pace wasn't bad, but for 15 laps then, we were degrading. Today, we have to analyse why these temperatures affected us. On Friday, I was pushing flat out and there was no degradation, and today I couldn't push and I was degrading like crazy at the front. For me, it was more the pace. I don't know on the other car. Today for me, it was the temperatures, a huge performance swing that I didn't expect." Wins at the Hungarian don't come much more emphatic than from 10th on the grid. Max Verstappen's upset victory at the Hungarian Grand Prix was only the 4th time someone had won from a position other than from the first 2 rows. It was not only a clear underline of Red Bull's racing superiority in the 2022 championship race, but it was also a neat encapsulation of the entire season as the sport enters the mid-season break. It featured a wildly slow Mercedes that then became unexpectedly and inexplicably fast, threatening to win the race but ultimately failing to do so. It featured Ferrari squandering what should have been an unrivaled pace advantage early in the weekend to finish 4th and denying it lacked operational sharpness. And as its centerpiece, it featured Red Bull's racing performing admirably, Verstappen seizing his opportunities and both finishing Sunday with increased points leads. Now, no team needs the mid-season break more than Ferrari, which has found yet another way to hand over more points to Red Bull Racing and Max Verstappen in an already bleak title campaign. All of this despite having explicitly targeted a 1-2 finish only a few days before. It won't surprise you to learn that despite Ferrari's words, the team's humiliating loss was primarily due to the pit wall. Binotto is not incorrect in claiming that they lack speed, but he exaggerates. Ferrari was slower than on Friday, but it still remained the fastest car on the track. When comparing Leclerc and Verstappen on the medium tyre in the middle of the race, the Monegasque was faster, or at least quick enough to take him on directly. However, Verstappen's second undercut attempt with 32 laps remaining frightened the team. Rather than race at its own pace, run deep and switch to softs as it did with Sainz, it brought Leclerc in immediately for the hard tyre and paid the price. So, there are two major errors here. The first is a lack of cool under pressure in reading the race, and the second is a misunderstanding of the hard tyre, which the team thought would warm up after 10 laps but was never going to be effective. It's not the first time it's done either of these things this season. If Charles Leclerc's solo crash at the French Grand Prix effectively decided the title's fate, Verstappen's slick victory in Budapest gave him a chance to put one hand on the trophy. An 80-point lead is equivalent to 3 clear race victories. He can now afford to finish second to Leclerc in every race, including the Brazilian sprint, and ship the point for fastest lap and still maintain his title lead before the season's end. Before the mid-season break, he was able to completely control the fate of the Driver Championship, and this is no easy task. After last season's down-to-the-wire blockbuster finale, you'll be concerned to know we can start counting down the points needed to win the championship. Verstappen can win the championship with just 5 more victories with 9 rounds remaining, even if Leclerc finished second in all of them. This puts him in position to claim the crown at the Japanese Grand Prix. And while Verstappen winning the next 5 races is unlikely, he has yet to win more than 3 in a row this season, with Mercedes potentially in the mix, he may have a team to pick points off Ferrari and Leclerc, in which case finishing with 1 or 2 cars between him and the Monegasque, regardless of their finishing position, would probably suffice. Of course, the weekend was not perfect. He qualified poorly due to a power unit issue, and a clutch issue spun him around the race, temporarily costing him the lead. He'll also have to serve a penalty for a new power unit in the second half of the year after installing his third and final motor this weekend. But the gap is wide enough to absorb that pressure, and with Leclerc needing at least 1 more round of power unit penalties, it's difficult to imagine Verstappen not winning the championship with at least 2 rounds to spare. But what do you think? Is Verstappen's lead just too great, or will Ferrari miraculously be able to challenge for the title later in the season? Do you agree with Matteo Binotto's assessment, or was the strategy the real issue in Hungary? We'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to click the bell button to be notified of future videos.